take his place. Good morning and welcome.
Councillor, staff responses on page 19.
Mr. Dunkley, you have a big PowerPoint to show us? No?
My name
Good
is...
on you. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Now what? The floor's yours, gentlemen.
Mr. Atkinson sends his apologies. He's overseas, so couldn't make it today. So, my name's Dan Druzianic. I'm on the board and chairman of the Finance and Risk Committee at the DHB. And many of you will know Peter Dunkley, who's a long-standing board member. I want to leave quite a lot of time for questions today because I'm sure you'll have some. So I'll take the report as read, but just at a high level, just to summarise our funding request, we have an issue at the hospital site in Hastings with car parking. Many of you will have experienced that personally. It is an issue for staff and for visitors. Often the staff are arriving, for night shifts, and often the visitors and patients are travelling from long distances from Wairoa and Central Hawke's Bay these days, and getting parks down there is quite an issue at times. We have looked extensively at bringing in paid car parking at the site, and the board came to the conclusion several months ago that this wasn't something that they wanted to pursue at the current time. The main reasoning around that was that there was a concern that it was going to affect the most vulnerable patients and also many of the staff. Many of the staff at the hospital are, on quite low wages, minimum wages, in the kitchens and cleaning, and the numbers, the price of the car parking was looking like it was going to be twice the sort of price of parking in Hastings, and it was going to be quite a challenge for many of the staff and patients. So, and also from at a big picture level, the parking company that was going to be outsourcing doing the work was effectively going to be taking $1 million out of the community every year. $750,000 approximately out of the community every year to run the parking system, and half of that was going to be paid by staff. So again, it was money going out of the area that didn't seem to make much sense. Also, at the like many organisations like ourselves, we're under a lot of pressure budget-wise. We've got approximately $15 million worth of efficiencies to find within our organisation in the next year. We've had come off the back of two $12 million efficiency rounds, so money is tight, and we have to find operating surpluses to fund capital expenditure, and we've got quite a long list of capital expenditure coming down the pipeline at us, including a $20 million mental health facility and an endoscopy unit and a birthing unit. So we haven't got any money set aside to spend on car parking. The decision was made to come and talk to you. We don't need any more land on the site down there for parks. We're actually just looking for some funding to convert existing land into car parks, so asphalting and etc. I think that's probably a sufficient kick-off. I think the logic really around coming here is under there's several acts listed out in the submission, and it's really we see this as a regional issue. It's along the lines of transport, access for the disadvantaged in the community to facilities and amenities, one of the big challenges we have, and one of our big goals is to try and reduce health inequities in the community. And paying for car parking down there is not going to help that. We don't believe. So, have we got any questions from the floor?
Questions? I'm sure there's a few floating around. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you for your submission. You say here that the Health Board understands that you can't redirect funding from frontline health services to pay for additional parking. So what's the responsibility for existing parking, for maintaining it, or who is responsible for developing that? The problem is extending your car park, and I would have thought, this is something probably you're caught with this one, but if the hospital is providing greater services, providing car parks to meet those services would be a logical part of the process, would it not?
We do have a cost for supporting the existing car parks. I don't have that number to hand, but I think it's in a region of $250,000, but I couldn't give you the details of that. So I would, my assumption would be that cost probably wouldn't increase a lot by having more sites on parks on site. It's probably an overhead type cost.
Thank you. Could I ask a question? Just part of our transport plan is to get people out of cars, not encourage them into them. Have you read the staff's answer here? Is that a fair comment that by taking people out of cars would create more car parks?
I think that's there's some merit in that, definitely. I think one of the issues we have is that many of our staff are part-time, and many of them work unusual hours, and so it's the carpooling thing would have merit, but it's whether it's going to be enough. I don't know.
Yes, thank you for coming and talking to us. Just wondered if you had any ideas of where you thought we would fund this $400,000 from. Would you see it as a rate placed across our whole base, a regional ratepayers base, or would you see it as
I think there were
particular charge on certain communities?
I think it'd be from reading the documents in here, I think the thinking was it might be a one-off fund, either in your general or special fund, but I'm not familiar with the workings of your separate funds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your submission. You referred to having a parking firm in to run it and the cost of that.
Yes.
What stops you running it yourself?
That was talked about. Can you remember? Help me out there, Peter.
Yeah, well, I think it's a skill thing. So there would be a learning curve for us. We would still have all the capital purchases. There's quite a high capital involvement in putting controlled car parking on the site. It may well be possible, but at the moment we don't have the funds for the capital purchase for that. From
memory, it was $1 million, over $1 million up front. Whether it got outsourced or not, the DHB was still going to have to find $1 million to kick off the car parking regime, paid car parking regime.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I note the support from other local authorities. Can you say how much those authorities committed to the project at this point? Is there a quantum that you're working?
I don't believe there's any fixed number that the other councils, Wairoa and Central Hawke's Bay, have committed any particular number.
From Hastings at all? Or?
No. I think Hastings have abstained from that.
1 minute. Any other questions, Councillor?
You might have covered it, but is there any option for having paid parking and giving vouchers to the staff and to those who can't afford it, in the same way social welfare subsidises washing machines and things for those that can't afford them?
We talked about that with management when they were proposing the paid car parking, and it seemed to be quite a complex, not impossible quite complex to bring that sort of regime in, and it wasn't. I don't think the outsourcing people were too keen on it.
I think the other point is the staff would contribute half the costs of the car parking. So if we gave the car parking for free to the staff, it would halve our revenue.
One of the challenges we have at the hospital site is that at shift change for about half an hour, there's double the cars that are there that are meant to be there. So even in the middle of the night, staff find it hard to find a park because the people are taking half an hour to get back to their cars, and others are parking way down the road in Camberley and places like that. And we do fear for the security of our staff at times.
Last question, Councillor Douglas.
I wasn't here right at the beginning. I apologise for that. Is the main driver the folks from the distance, in other words, from Central or Wairoa, or is it a general problem, or is it half and half?
Well, I think it's a general problem, but particularly I think there's a lot of people in the region travelling from a distance, including staff now, to go to the hospital as things. The more complex services tend to be centralised now, and so transport and parking is an issue that's going to become greater rather than lesser, we believe.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for your time.
No, thank you.